why did you initially decide to run, and why are you seeking re-election again?
Well, it was kind of a fluke. There was a Commissioner Dalton was planning on running for re-election, and she chose after filing she withdrew before the end of filing. And I was working on a fundraiser for Commissioner Vogt, actually. And I was asking her and Commissioner Stamper who was going to be running in the Southern District, and they told me who. And I said, I think I can do a better job than any of those. And one of the guys there working on this fundraiser said, if you can do it, I've got the paperwork out in the car. So he brought me the paperwork to register, and I spent that afternoon making some phone calls, lining up my campaign staff or supporters, and decided then to make it official the next day.
And you want to keep going.
And I do. It's been such an honor and such a rewarding position to be in. I know that decisions I make every day affect people's lives. And people say, why don't you want to go to the state or federal level? There's still much work to be done right here on the local level. And like I said, because we do make decisions that affect people's lives on a daily basis, it is very rewarding. And I want to continue in that work.
So what are some of the issues that affect Boone County residents the most, and what do you plan to do about them?
The things that the commission's responsible for is primarily the budget for the whole county. And then we're responsible for everything in the unincorporated area, such as the roads, planning and zoning. And then when you think about as a person that lives in a city, what does the county do for them? Well, when you think about the things they couldn't do if they didn't have county government, you think about you wouldn't have land records, you wouldn't have marriage licenses, you wouldn't have the court system, you wouldn't have a jail. The city would have to build a jail if the county didn't have, those kinds of things. So those are some of the services that the county offers to all the citizens of the county.
So what are some of the issues coming up? I mean, things are starting to get a little tough, especially economically. What do you see happening with Boone County, and how would you plan on fixing that if you were elected county commissioner again?
Well, I can tell you that we have been very blessed in Boone County in my 16 years. We have lived in a bubble when it came to the economic recessions that other communities have faced. However, starting last year, we started feeling those same struggles. When we only had a 0.5% increase on our sales tax over the previous year when we budgeted a 3%. So we went into the budget cycle in the hole about $500,000. We still had funds, but we had less revenue than we expected, and we didn't spend as much as we expected, so we were okay. But this year, at this point, we're only up about 0.23% over last year. So we are not climbing out of this struggle anytime soon. So it makes us reevaluate how we deal with economic development. In the past, we've just paid our $25,000 to READY and let READY, Regional Economic Development Incorporated, the arm of economic development for Boone County, the city, the university, everybody, just do it. Well, I don't think we can do that anymore. I think we have to be much more involved with policy and looking at opportunities and helping to identify the assets that we need to tout as a community. And I think we have to do it in partnership with the University of Missouri, with the City of Columbia, with the City of Ashland, Hallsville, Centralia, the cities that desire to grow, because we need one plan that we can buy into as a community. And that way, when one agency goes forward for a grant request at economic development at the state or federal level, they have the backing of all the other communities and governmental entities. I think that really makes a much stronger application. And that was something that the Economic Development Director, or ED Director at the state, Greg Steinhoff, says we were missing in Boone County. We didn't have an integrated, coordinated, comprehensive economic plan. Where if you talk about Springfield and Greene County, he knows when a proposal is brought forward, whether it's brought by the city of Springfield, by the county of Greene, or the university down there, that it has got the blessing of all those entities. And he doesn't have that same feeling when someone from Boone County brings something, because we don't have a comprehensive plan. So that's one thing. The second thing is to develop policies that identify how we're going to use our limited dollars for capitalizing infrastructure. You know, it's like when we passed the sewer bond issue. You know, there was funding in there for unknown needs. Do you do it on a first come, first served basis, or do you do it on a plan where you're going to use those extra dollars for infrastructure that will bring jobs and enhance a site that will allow for a company to move to Boone County? So those are kind of policies we need to look at. We also need to look at incentive policies. You know, the world has changed to where many businesses don't even look at your community if you don't have some kind of an incentive policy. Well, we have Chapter 100 bonds, and that's very limited about who is eligible for those bonds. But that has worked very well with ABC Labs. Are there other policies? There's probably, Mr. Steinhoff says there's probably 100 policies out there communities use, but maybe 2 or 3 that would fit and work within Boone County. And we just need to research all that and develop a plan with all the communities and the citizens and get buy-in from everybody before we move forward.
Are there any other issues that you would like to tackle?
Well, we are tackling the stormwater regulations, and those are a requirement, unfunded mandate by the federal government. Not saying they're a bad mandate, because we do need to have stormwater regulations to prevent flooding, to preserve water quality, but you have to do it within your ability to manage a program and to fund a program. And since there was no money that came along with it, it's an unfunded mandate that comes out of our discretionary dollars, and our discretionary dollars are getting fewer and far between with the increased cost of gas, utilities, and those kinds of things that are core parts of the budget.
And Boone County consists of, you know, this urban area, Columbia, and then more of a rural area on the outside of Columbia and the farms. How do you address the needs of both communities, the urban versus the rural areas? Well,
like I said, we're responsible for the roads in the rural areas. And so we have funding that is just for roads, and we work with the other cities. We have a grant program, a revenue sharing program, and a revenue replacement program that the incorporated areas share in. But the funding that's left for the county to expend goes for maintenance of the roads, and then we do some small improvements that we can afford to do within that structure, and those improvements are done in the unincorporated area.
So come, you know, a month or 2 from now, what's on your to-do list if you are reelected?
Well, working on the stormwater regulations. We're working weekly, going with a consultant to develop that plan. But I'm also working on a wellness program for the county's health trust. I'm working on a continuity of operations plan for the county in case of a disaster. And those things have just been kind of put on hold while I've been trying to do the courthouse project. I'm in charge of all the capital projects right now, and so I'm in charge of the 2 floors expansion on the courthouse. I was in charge of the alternative sentencing center. I was in charge of the Get About Columbia project. I'm in charge of the 4D project, and all those things are just on top of what I would have normally done in the past years. And so I've been pretty busy. and then you throw a campaign in the middle of that, and there wasn't any extra time to move forward on some of those specialty projects.
You got a lot on your plate there.
I do have a lot on my plate, but that's what makes it interesting and enjoyable, because you're not doing the exact same thing every day.
Definitely. So am I missing anything? Is there any other issues you'd like to bring up, or?
No, I think that I think that you just need, the voters need to review my position. You know, I've probably made 1 million decisions over the last 16 years. And I don't feel like I have made a lot of bad decisions, you know, and so I think that the voters need to look at this as a job evaluation. Have I met or exceeded their expectations? And if I have met or exceeded their expectations, I would be honored to have their vote on August 5th.